Hey, Ben Shapiro fans, it's me, the Soy Pill. I just need someone who really likes this guy to answer this one question. Why do you take this man seriously? Ben Shapiro is often portrayed as the intellectual powerhouse of the conservative movement. He's made a career off of being the epitome of logic.
What is your position on if compassion over logic, perhaps?
Empathy is stupid.
Balance.
His famous phrase is, "Facts don't care about your feelings." And he absolutely owns that. It's stickied onto his Twitter. He's all about owning the emotional libs with studies and stats. This man sells shirts that copy that Obama Hope shirt, but it says facts instead. But then I keep seeing shit like this. So a study comes out that says that brain surgeons and aerospace engineers aren't that much smarter than the general population. But anyone who watches this channel already knows that, because I'm an aerospace engineer. And I'm fucking retarded.
Certified retard.
Anyway, this study used the Great British Intelligence Test, and you can go find it online. It tests cognition. Okay, I just have to pick out blocks to create negative space. Fuck. Working memory, 972136580. 972138450. Was there another one? 9. Shit. Planning and reasoning. Ready? Okay, I'm just clicking on targets. This is what you do in engineering, by the way. Just this. All day. And emotion processing abilities. Okay, mild and angry. Same. Ooh. Probably should have taken more time on that last one. And according to this study, aerospace engineers and brain surgeons don't score much higher than the general population. The researchers were trying to show that these jobs, while obviously requiring high skill and training, don't necessarily make you smarter than everyone else. But what does Ben Shapiro say to the results of this study? Yeah, bullshit. The average IQ in the general population is around 100. I promise that the average IQ among aerospace engineers and brain surgeons is not 100. If it were, there would be a lot more rockets blowing up and people bleeding out on operating tables. This is what liberals want you to believe. They want you to believe that a study supported by the UK Space Agency and the Society of British Neurological Surgeons is true. But that's crazy, because science also says that I have a 0% chance with AOC. But she acknowledged that I exist on Twitter, which means the outcome is slightly greater than 0. In other words, Ben is saying this fact doesn't feel right. Where have I heard that before? I'm not saying that he's not allowed to question the study. The point of science is to test and reaffirm results, and change your determinations based on new evidence. Science is never set in stone forever. It's almost always in flux.
Whoa, it's the 20s and cigarettes are swell. New study shows that 12 packs of cigs a day makes your lungs feel dandy. Wash it down with a mercury pill after a long hard day at the asbestos factory. Thanks, science.
But Ben Shapiro isn't questioning this study because he has counterfactual evidence or problems with the methodology. He's doing it because he feels like it sounds wrong. Also, Ben, IQ doesn't measure how good you are at building rockets. It measures your reasoning skills, pattern recognition, and whether or not you were stupid enough to spend $10 for an online IQ test. Ironically, IQ tests are very similar to the test that they used in the study, and we know what the results from that study said. And this study isn't saying that if you grabbed an average person off the street and switched them with the average aerospace engineer, that they'd be able to build rockets. It's saying that intelligence can be a measure of a lot of different factors, and that neurosurgeons and aerospace engineers don't have some special genius gene that makes them selected at birth for their profession. It's saying that with proper training, someone from the general population could do their job, which is kind of how people become aerospace engineers. You go to school, get the training, and do the job. It's pretty clearly laid out if you read the article, and I'm not sure Ben did. And this pattern of intellectual dishonesty, when it suits his agenda, is all over his career. Like when he talks about trans people. Regardless of how you feel about transgender people, there's a pretty large amount of evidence that shows that treating them how they want to be treated and letting them transition and not being a huge dick is the best thing for their mental health.
Your son looks like a girl!
Now, there's a lot of debate about what age you should be allowed to transition at, or what categories of sports trans people should compete in, or whether or not it's gay to suck a girl's dick, and I'm not getting into that right now because those are nuanced issues, and I don't think there are concrete answers.
That is about the gayest thing I've ever heard.
But when it comes to the best treatment for people with dysphoria, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that says that transition and therapy and respecting these people's identities is the best thing to do. So what does Ben say?
Then you actually just disagree with medical consensus within the Western
disagree. Yes, I disagree with the false medical consensus driven by politically driven, quote-unquote, doctors.
Oh, so all these thousands of researchers and numerous studies are all wrong and made up for a political agenda because you feel that they're wrong. This is what liberals want you to believe. They want you to think that I could wake up tomorrow and say that I'm a girl, but it's not true. I tried on my sister's clothing, and I never grew big mommy milkers. It doesn't work, period. And let's be clear, these scientists aren't making the straw man argument that Ben always puts on them.
But if you are going to dictate to me that I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men, no.
No serious person is claiming that people are changing their biological sex. Obviously, you can't change your chromosomes. But you don't have chromosome vision, Ben. You can't tell what someone's biological sex is by looking at them. Sure, for most people it's pretty straightforward, but for many it's not. Is this person a woman or a trans woman? Or maybe they're a guy with long hair. I don't know, I haven't asked them. Is this a man? They've got XX chromosomes. This is a trans woman, but if I was pointing them out to my friend, I wouldn't say, yeah, that guy in the pool with the huge tits. Trans women present themselves as women because they want to be identified as such. Same goes for trans men. You get nowhere by yelling at the fictional person, or on Twitter, unfortunately, very real person, telling you that they've changed their biological sex. Just be a nice person and call people what they ask you to call them. The vast majority of studies agree with this, and if they said the opposite, of course he would be stapling them to his forehead at his speeches. Okay, last example, climate change. He claims on Twitter, I see idiots already crawling out to say I'm a climate change denier. I have not and do not deny climate change, or even that human activity impacts the climate through emissions. I do question the catastrophic headlines and the insane panic attacks. Okay, so what are his down-to-earth, rational takes?
Do you know that certain aspects that have been widely talked about have been debunked? The idea that the Arctic ice is disappearing is nonsense.
You can look at the ice data for both ice caps, and over the past 4 decades, both are on a downward trend. The only way Ben could have thought otherwise was if he was really zoomed in.
The idea that the hockey stick graph is anything remotely resembling reality. The hockey stick graph shows over the last century, and it's too short a period of time to do climate change statistics like this. It shows over the last century and a half, that the climate, along with carbon emissions, go like that it's a hockey stick. The problem is that's falsified data.
The original 1999 hockey stick graph did have some questions regarding their statistical methodology, but it was reconstructed using different methodology in 2003, and confirmed by various other institutions again, and again, and again, and it's pretty clear that the most warming happens in the late 19th century, 20th century, and onward, after the Industrial Revolution.
There have been multiple problems with the measurement data as far as global warming. That's why they call it climate change now and not global warming, because the Earth basically has not been warming for the last 15 years or so.
On the topic of climate versus weather, they changed the term from global warming to climate change because idiots, like Senator Jim Inhofe, would point at the snow and say, but how can globe be warming if snow? Oh, hey look, it's a Ben Shapiro tweet from 2022 where he's still saying that global warming isn't happening because ice exists.
All of which is to say, if you could come up with a solution that did not hurt millions of people and plunge us back into the 1850s, then maybe we could talk about it. The problem is that nobody, even on the left, people who are the biggest anthropogenic climate change advocates, cannot tell you what we are supposed to do to stop climate change. Human beings have a way of adjusting. Human beings have a way of dealing with these things.
They are telling us what we have to do. They're saying that we need to transform our energy supply away from fossil fuels. I don't know what version of the 1850s Ben saw, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have solar panels and nuclear reactors. Mr. Shapiro, the windmill farm. It gave me the black lung. You say that humans will adapt and that we always have. But these policies, like renewable energy, the ones that you advocate against, those are us adapting. And this is the absurdity of the left. They want me to say that we need IED experts to defuse ticking time bombs. But this is blatant propaganda, because we've all seen the movies, and we all know that the timer always stops before it gets to 0. I didn't make this video because I'm a disgruntled climate expert itching to prove Ben wrong. But Ben's rhetoric is so blatantly at odds with itself that I feel like I'm missing something something when anyone can think this man isn't a total charlatan. I really like Bernie Sanders, but I don't think he's a genius philosopher, and he doesn't think he is either. I think he says dumb stuff sometimes, and I don't agree with all his policies.
The American people are tired of women.
If you picked apart all my other videos, I'm sure you could find things that don't hold up to scrutiny, but I don't sell shirts with my face on it that say facts. So that's my one question for you Ben Shapiro fans. How can you take this man seriously? How can you take seriously a man who says he's the bastion of logic, but the minute a study or the entire consensus of the scientific community comes out and says something he doesn't like, he'll dismiss it entirely because it doesn't feel right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like if you did and subscribe if you want more. Or dislike, because I guess that doesn't do anything anymore. And this is what the left wants you to believe. They want you to believe that there are 0 dislikes, 0, on the AOC rooftop dancing video. But that's not true. Both my doctor wife and I have disliked the video for its blatant attempt to seduce me away from my wife, who is a doctor.